ABC 15 asking State Senator Paul Boyer about the audit that he says he no longer supports.
You did support the audit before, though.
I supported it. I didn't think it would turn out the way it did, and I thought that it would be more how the board usually conducts them.
Boyer questions what's happening inside the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, from workers using UV lights to look for watermarks in the ballots to checking for bamboo fibers.
That's the other thing. That's so ridiculous. I mean, like, someone actually believes that 40,000 ballots were flown in. Here's the reality. 35,000 Republicans decided not to vote for the president. They just left it blank. If they decided to vote for Trump, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Okay.
So I think that's more of a problem that as a party we need to figure out.
And you're listening to Mixed Politics.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 17.
It is 17.
Yay.
Right. Oh my God.
We're creeping on in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're due for a break too, so I don't know if we're gonna get there as fast as we want.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how the news dies down.
This is 2 in a row.
Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
At least.
Yes.
So the next one will be third, and then usually maybe third or fourth
Then a
break.
break. Yep.
All right.
Exactly. So, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking what I have called a Sunstrider.
A Sunstrider?
Yeah.
Did you make that up?
I
or
did.
Okay.
I'm making up my own stuff these days, but
Very nice.
this has tequila, 1800 silver.
Very nice.
So, I mean, if you guys want to sponsor us, 1800. Whatever. We've got kiwi in there. We've got strawberry. We've got lime, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's
Looks
very,
nice.
it's very sunny and fruity, and so, when enough of these, and I feel like I'm striding across the sun. So, Sunstrider. What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking very vanilla vodka and Zevia.
You say this all the time. You're just
I
like
know.
very vanilla.
It's my go-to, but it is very vanilla.
It's doing a weird thing that I don't understand. Where the
Bubbly.
bubbles are just
It's
it's
carbonated.
like, almost like champagne.
It looks like champagne.
Yeah.
Ooh, so that makes it bougie. Okay, so it's
Makes it bougie. All right. So what are we talking about tonight?
what is going on with the Arizona audit? Oh, this is going to be fun.
I'm excited to be here. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. So
Yeah.
I actually wanted to make a parallel, a connection to last week's episode. We talked about January 6th commission
Mhm.
and how a lot of the people who are against the commission even existing are against it because they say that there is a conclusion that's been drawn that Donald Trump is guilty, and then any commission that's trying to investigate that, it's botched because the conclusion's already drawn and they're trying to seek evidence that would lead to that conclusion.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting that with the Arizona audit, that's exactly what's happening right now?
It's the opposite.
The opposite. Those same people are saying we need to investigate this because Donald Trump won the election, they say. And so we need to investigate it
To prove that he
to
won.
prove that he won.
Okay.
So they're not really against drawing conclusions before the investigation. They're just against it when it makes them look bad.
There's a word for that. It starts with an H.
Hypocrisy?
Yeah. That's the word.
Or just, yeah, there's probably a lot of words to describe that, but hypocrisy is number one. So I thought it was interesting. Now, this reminds me of some advice that I got a long time ago.
Mhm.
About more than a decade ago, I was in a relationship that was very, I don't know, we didn't trust each other, suffice it to say. So I thought that he was cheating on me. And I went to a friend of mine, his name's Eric. Hi, Eric, if you're watching. And he was giving me some good advice.
Mhm.
I said, I think that this guy's cheating on me, and I'm looking through social media, I'm looking through his computer, I'm looking to find the proof of that. Now, I wasn't smart enough at the time to just walk away, to be like, deuces.
How old are you? When this was occurring?
Oh, that was in my late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I don't go through people's things, man. Like I'm out. Like
I
I'm
get
not,
it, but for whatever reason, I wasn't confident enough to just walk away.
Mhm.
So he looked at me, he was like, Beth, this is not going to end well. Because one of two things is going to happen. You're never going to find peace. You're either going to not find what you're looking for, and you're just going to go down the rabbit hole of searching and searching. And if you don't find it, you think it's still there, and you're going to search somewhere else. it's not there. It must be hidden somewhere else. And you just go in circles.
That
You'll
sounds like
never actually find
that
it.
sounds like weapons of mass destruction.
Yes, weapons of mass destruction.
They gotta be somewhere.
They gotta be somewhere. We're just gonna keep looking and we're gonna find it.
Uh,
And or the alternate is you do find what you're looking for and you have the proof that you already knew was there. So just walk away. And that was really good advice. And that's the advice that I want to give to all
Mhm.
these people who are doing this Arizona audit. Either you're never going to find what you're looking for and you're going to keep chasing that rabbit and just go into very dark places. Or you're going to find what you are looking for. And then what? It turns our entire country into turmoil. And it still doesn't reinstate Donald Trump as the president.
because there's no constitutionality for
No.
that. So no matter what happened, like
Yeah.
even if they had found like 250,000 illegal ballots or whatever, and they
Yeah.
were just like, yes, we got it, we're right. Now what?
Now what?
Nothing. Joe Biden's still president.
Joe Biden's still
because he's
president.
certified and it's
And
over.
if Biden and Harris resign, Nancy Pelosi is president, which is also something that I don't want. So really nothing good comes out of this. So take my friend Eric's advice, walk away, just walk away, cut your losses.
Wow.
So yeah,
I never looked at it's so like you drew the connection between what they're doing and like relationship
a bad
insecurity.
relationship. Mhm.
I never imagined it that way. But yeah, like so my whole thing was always if you're looking for something hard enough, you'll find it.
Oh yeah.
No matter what it is. Even if it isn't there.
Yeah,
You'll make it up in your
Yeah.
head.
That's,
Which is
yeah.
what a lot of people have done
Yeah.
with this election fraud crap. Because
Yes.
let me see. You remember that there was a huge news story that broke at the end of the election. This Georgia woman, this Georgia man, and it was like, oh, how did he vote? And he died, and he died 6 years ago, and whatever. And the news literally rolled up to the house, and the woman was like the widow. So the news cameras pull up to his house, the address, to find out, what was going on because all of this hubbub. This around the same time when the election officials were getting death threats and all of this
Oh.
stuff or whatever. So they pulled up to this person's house in like the first recount, and she's like, can I help you? And they're like, oh, we're looking for Mr. So and so and so. And she's like, he's died, he's dead. He's been dead for like 5-6 years. And they're like, we know, so we want to know why he voted and whatever. And she's like, he didn't vote. She's like, well, it says right here that, and it was so funny. They looked at it and it was just like, Mrs. So-and-so. I'm like, yeah. She's like, yeah, when I registered to vote, I used like my married name as in Mrs. So-and-so.
I
blah, blah, blah.
remember that.
Right. And she was just like, I voted for me. It was my
Yes.
vote. And, and so.
But people wanted to see it as
Right.
fraudulent.
Exactly. And so to them, they was like, a dead person voted. Just.
Tucker Carlson ran that story.
He did.
And he had to apologize.
Right.
Yes.
I do remember that.
It was a very clear-cut case
But-
that he was like, I can't not apologize.
But that's the thing. It's just like they were looking for voter fraud so much that even when it wasn't there, they were finding it. And
Yes.
I don't know.
Exactly. This whole conquest for Donald Trump uber alles is rooted in selfishness.
Mhm.
People are willing to overthrow the stability of our democracy for that man, and I will never understand that.
For a man.
For a man.
Like, what has he delivered? That like some kind of a messiah complex. Like he hasn't done anything that like I could understand if it was like Eisenhower or like
Kennedy.
FDR, where
Yeah.
it's just like he did this for us.
Right.
Like, what do you do for you except like make the shit that you like to do cool?
Well, he basically owned the libs, and that's what they like. I mean, that's pretty. He just makes them feel good.
Oh,
It's
That's important,
interesting.
though.
Well, interesting that the fuck your feelings people are all about the feelings. They're all, Trump gets them in the feels. All right, so let's talk about how we got here.
All right.
I'm just going to summarize this before we get into the details. But election 2020 was held and certified in Arizona, and Biden won the state. That was certified, and then 2 internal audits were done, and they confirmed the original results down to the number. It was confirmed twice. So basically, Biden won 3 times in Arizona. That wasn't good enough for the crazies. So the Arizona Senate issued a subpoena for the Board of Supervisors in Arizona to turn over mail-in envelopes, passwords, logins for the ballot tabulation devices, and all of the routers. That request was denied for obvious security reasons, including, I learned that the sheriff's department, their security is all in that same, I don't know if it's on the same routers or what. I don't know
Same
how it
servers?
works, the same
Oh.
servers maybe. But the sheriff came out, the sheriff of Maricopa County was like, dude, no.
We can't.
You're going to know all of our secrets of the police department if you get that shit. So request was denied. So the Arizona Senate decided to hire their own audit, but only of Maricopa County, which is the largest county in Arizona, but only that county. That's what this audit is for. It's not statewide.
They keep calling it the Arizona audit, but it's actually the Maricopa County audit.
Yes.
That's just for the people who don't know. Maricopa County has Phoenix in it, right?
Yes, correct.
And so it's the largest urban center
Correct.
in Arizona, and I think the constituents are about 2.1 million people, or 2.1 million voters.
Voters, yes,
Yeah,
that sounds
voters,
right. That
right.
sounds right. So it has the highest population in the state, and they're doing this audit with cyber ninjas, who you're going to tell us about. They have absolutely no experience in any auditing or elections. So there's two main issues. Why only Maricopa County? I mean, if you're going to have election integrity, do it right.
Yeah.
But they're only doing the biggest county. And why cyber ninjas? And now that the audit is complete, I do have to give the latest updates that happened just within the last week or two. Now that the audit's complete, the records don't match, but there's no details you can really find about what that means.
Yeah.
So a judge has ordered the Arizona Senate to make records public. The Arizona Senate's attorneys tried to say that they shouldn't have to release the records because they're in possession of the private company Cyber Ninjas. And I do actually have, if we have enough time, I have the judge's ruling and the initial complaint that was filed. There's interesting information in here that the judge explains that you're the Arizona Senate, and that means that anything you do in your official capacity as a senator is public record by law. So just because it's currently possessed by a private company doesn't mean shit. You still have to turn it over. So that was the latest ruling that just happened a few days ago.
It's funny to me all the time how lawmakers are just completely oblivious to the actual laws.
Yes. And the court ruling actually says that. But court decides what's public record. Lawmakers don't decide what's public record. And I like the judge saying that.
It's such a shit show.
Obvious. But they're just basically like, bitch, sit down. We got this. We're the professionals. So, yeah. So let's talk about cyber ninjas. You've done some deep dive into who these people are.
So no one ever heard about cyber ninjas before this audit. That's gonna be so we had an election that is run by the states, the lawmakers in the state, the people who are elected to do such things.
There's a board of elections that's trained to do this.
But those people are not the ones doing this audit. This audit is being run by a private cybersecurity firm from Sarasota, Florida. Now, I used to live in Florida, so and I know a lot of people who still live there. The people who live in Florida, not like visitors, of course, like we all know Florida is complete dog shit. I'm sorry, but it's true. Like we've all seen the Florida Man in news stories every fucking day. So
Florida Man. ...
Like people are saying like X place is the Florida of Y place because Florida is fucking terrible. There's bobcats, there's alligators, there's whatever.
Everything.
But one thing for sure, you can't tell me one good thing you ever heard of coming out of Sarasota, Florida. I'll wait. No, exactly. It doesn't happen.
No.
But this company is from there, right? Now, the CEO of this company has been, since before the election, pushing the Stop the Steal campaign. That's his thing. So he's a huge Trump apologist. I think that's a good word for him.
Yes.
Apologist.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a huge Trump supporter / apologist. And his whole thing is the election is stolen. I can prove it, whatever, whatever. So because he, he's a CEO of a tech startup or a tech company, he had a little bit of money,
Mm-hmm.
and he also had some clout. So and people were just like, "Oh, he knows computers."
Mm-hmm.
So let's get him on board to do this. His name's Doug. We're just gonna call him Doug.
Let's call him Doogie.
Doug Logan. But so Doug headed up this company, and then they gave him $150,000 because that was the max I think the state was allowed to give him to run this audit.
It's funny. I was just writing that note so I could remember to make a comment later.
Yeah.
Less than 200,000 was the number that I remember.
Right.
So 150,000 was what I got.
But apparently the cost of doing it has risen exponentially beyond what they could allot or afford. And so now it's just, I guess, the Trump campaign or whoever is paying them, or if that's the case, that's gonna be hilarious because people they don't pay people.
So the reason I was writing my note is because I wanted to come back to that, but I can say it now. The Arizona Senate was who gave them the $150,000.
Right. Yeah.
The rest, there's been 5 million plus.
Right.
Poured into this from private donors, including criminals that have been pardoned by Trump. What's the former national security advisor, the one that was
it Michael Flynn?
Yes.
Yes, he was all over that. I think
he donated a lot. A lot of these companies that are pushing the Stop the Steal thing, they have flooded more than $5 million.
The My Pillow fucking guy.
Yes, Mike Lindell, but I like to call him Mike Pillow.
So about cyber ninjas. I'm trying to say this with a straight face, right? So if you go to their website, like the official company website, there are people like dressed in like ninja outfits and shit, and they've got like katanas and swords.
Stop it!
I'm not making this up. Like I'm gonna post this to the world. People
what are they cosplaying?
They're fucking LARPers.
Yes, they're LARPing.
So like the I don't know if it's paid actors or actual employees, but all over their website, like full on ninja garb and Naruto running and shit. And I'm like, these are the people you trusted with election security and integrity? That is wild to me. That is driving me crazy.
I can't even with these people.
So it's a single HQ company. It's not like they have branches in every state or whatever. This is one. Now, their main job has nothing to do with election integrity or election security. What Cyber Ninjas does is they're an app security company. So let's say, for example, you are an app developer.
Mm-hmm.
You've made this app and you want to make some money on Google Play or App Store or whatever. One of the things that Apple or Google and them decide or you have to prove is how secure your app is. Because if people are inputting information or whatever, can somebody else hack it? Can somebody else get in it and get all this information?
Mm-hmm.
So what you would do is you would call this company, Cyber Ninjas, and be like, here's my app that I created. Get into it, steal some shit, crack it, hack it. And so what they do is they fuck it up. They hack the shit out of it, and then they have a report where they're just like, these are all the things we found wrong with your app. Now I know this is very similar to what you do in your line of work, mm-hmm. but this is a private company that does this. And so they'll put out a report saying we're able to breach your app in these areas. These are the weaknesses or whatever. Fix this shit. They don't fix it for you. All they do is just hack the fuck out of it and be like, here you go. And then now you have to go back to the drawing board with your board and your company and be like, hey, they hacked this thing 72 ways. We got to fix these 72 holes before we push it out to the public.
Right.
That is what Cyber Ninjas does. That's you can go to their website, you can go to their About section. It's literally, those are the people that the Arizona State Senate decided should prove election fraud in a general election.
Those kinds of people would be good for finding loopholes so that you can create legislation to close the loopholes. These are not the kind of people that you want performing the actual audit, because these people know how to commit fraud.
Yeah.
And so you're going to give them access to all of the official documents and ask them to be the ones to find the integrity in the existing documents.
That's exactly what I thought. I was just like, these are bad people. These are people who are like trying to hack shit. You just gave them everybody's name and social security number or whatever, and you gave these people this shit and said, prove that somebody stole the election. Ah,
My brain
to cap it off
is
though.
going to explode.
To cap it off though, and I know this is like jumping to the end of the podcast. Just you can skip to the end of the book. They didn't find shit.
And they didn't find anything. But now Cyber Ninjas is saying we don't want to release any of the paper trail. Nothing suspicious about that. The people who didn't find anything, so really all they want to do is just hold on to the narrative. They don't have to say
Yeah,
that they
because
found nothing. They haven't done an official report yet that says that they found nothing.
You
They're
would
letting
imagine-
it linger out there.
you would imagine if they had found something,
Something.
it would have been like bombshell.
Yes.
We did it. We nailed it. And now you didn't.
They haven't found anything. But I talked to a friend of mine who's a Trump supporter, and he also found it extremely odd
Yeah.
that the audit was finished. Because I mentioned that to him in a conversation just recently. I said, "Did you know they finished the audit?" He's like, "No,
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything
Because they're
about
so
it."
tight-lipped about it now. It's just like, if you
Yes.
found some shit, pop it off. Let's go.
Yeah, and I was like, "Do you find it odd at all that they were supposed to find the fraud that you're looking for and they didn't say anything?" And he's like, "That's a little suspicious." So, I mean, they just want people to continue to believe that it was a fraudulent election.
Yeah.
They don't want to do the report that says they found nothing. They just want people to continue thinking that they found something because they were so confident that they were.
So another issue that stems from this is, and it was the same issue with Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when I think Georgia was like the first that came under attack for like voter fraud, or
Yes.
this is wrong, or you stole it, or whatever.
Right.
One of the first issues was Biden stole the election, or them stole the election in Georgia, and it was like, how is it that Biden stole the election, but we ended up having to go to a runoff for Ossoff and Warnock?
Right.
If we don't steal the election,
We're gonna
why
run the
not
board.
why not just steal the whole thing?
You're gonna run the board. You're not
How-
gonna make it close.
How you steal the election in Georgia, but let Mitch McConnell win in Kentucky, and Lindsey Graham win in South Carolina, and Ted Cruz win
No
in
way.
what kind of stealing? So we're only stealing it for Biden. The senators is a free for all, but it was literally the same ballot, the same.
But I
Oh,
will say that
Yeah.
the recorded phone call between Trump and somebody in Georgia, I think it was the Secretary of State,
yeah.
when he was trying to find the votes.
Right.
He gave an actual number.
Right, he said,
of votes.
I wanted 178,000.
One more than what he actually needed to win. So we're talking about somebody who, if the crowd wants to say,
Yeah.
"Oh no, if it's gonna be a fraudulent election, you only have to win by a little bit." Well, Donald Trump proved that because when he was recorded on the phone call, he was
Yeah.
like, "Just give me one more vote,
I need
one more than what I need."
What was it?
I can't remember the actual number.
178,562.
Yes. Just one higher than the margin of the.
And he was
win
telling the
for
guy, and that's one of the investigations that's happening right now, like
Currently
in
happening.
court. And,
Yes.
poor guy. When they're done with him,
Poor Trump. No, I don't feel bad for him. He spent his entire life living this way, so I don't feel at all bad for him. No tears. No tears.
so in the same breath, it's just like, so they stole it for Biden, but didn't for all these other senators
Doesn't make any
and
sense.
representatives or whatever. That's the thing. If, let's say, for example, cyber ninjas found widespread fraud or whatever, and in some parallel universe where the Constitution allows for reinstating Trump and removing Biden, that causes a lot of problems for the other people on ballots.
I want to talk about what an audit should be like.
All right.
I've done audits before. I've worked in the financial industry and fintech-ish stuff for quite a while, but back in the early days of my career, I used to perform audits for financial institutions. There are so many controls that have to happen around an audit so that nobody can cover up any evidence prematurely.
Yeah.
Specifically, the timing of it has to be a surprise, because people can cover up evidence if they know an audit's going to happen. So a true audit happens at the time of a secret choosing. So nobody knows the exact date that it's going to start, which may not be feasible for an election audit, but there's a reason for that, for it to be secretive of when it's going to happen. It shouldn't be done by just one party or one person, because any human is prone to error or bias. So it's called dual control. This is what they do. They have two parties that are at least a minimum of two parties that are involved in an audit, so that if one person shows bias, the other person can call it out and say, no, that's not right. So, and then documentation for the audit. Yeah. Every step has to be documented for posterity. It has to be a paper trail, because
that was not what was happening in Arizona.
And again, Cyber Ninjas is refusing to release this, and Arizona Audit is trying to comply with not releasing it, but the judge was like, public records, you have to, it's the law. So if somebody's not taking notes extemporaneously at the time that the audit's happening, then there could be a cloud of suspicion about the steps that were taken during the audit. So notes have to be taken, everything has to be documented. And then finally, there's a chain of custody. For anything that's touched, anything that's opened, anything that's looked at, there has to be a chain of custody. And this is key in law enforcement. Hold on a second. Because if something is transferring custody, there has to be thorough documentation and security to assure that there is not a link in that chain that's broken, so that every step is accounted for. So if I'm taking a piece of evidence, I'm giving it to you, and then that is easily documented. But what if I decide to give it to somebody else first, and they're going to give it to you? Well, then I've broken the chain of custody by not giving it directly to you. So before I talk about the specifics of what's wrong with this audit, tell me why you're laughing. Tell me why you're laughing.
Because during this audit, about maybe a month and a half ago, close to 2 months ago, the biggest issue that the GOP senators of the state, not the ones in Washington, but the state legislature, had with this audit was that they couldn't pinpoint the chain of custody.
Right.
Like they would. So at some point in time, they were. I think there's a picture of them. There's like a chain link fence that separates like some allowed watchers from the state legislature to see what Cyber Ninjas was doing. Cyber Ninjas. Come on, guys. Come on, man. Like, get a real name.
Cyber Ninjas.
To see what they were doing, right? And it got to the point where they would visit at random or a lot of times they'd be like, okay, so who has batch 876-26B? Nobody knows. So where is this count? Who's counting this batch right now? Okay, where is that? Okay, who took it from where? No answer. And so the state legislator, the actual Republicans, started to get frustrated because they were just like, we don't even know where the fucking shit is that they're counting.
Yes.
We don't know who else. And so they started to speak out one by one. They're just like, it got to the point where I don't remember who the top person was.
Ken Bennett?
Yes.
The guy that was banned?
Right. Yes. He got so frustrated. He was just like, I'm going down there. Somebody needs to answer these questions. Where the fuck are these things? Yeah. And they were just like, sorry, sir, we can't let you in. Well, and he was just like, so at the end of that, he was just like, you know what? This audit is shit. I'm telling the whole world that this audit is shit because they won't even let me in. I'm the top dude in the state.
He's the only person in that entire operation because he's basically the liaison for the Arizona Senate. Yeah. He's the only person with any experience in elections because he used to be the Secretary of State. He is literally the only person who's ever done anything with elections that's connected to this at all.
So
they locked him out.
When the story broke, right? He was so frustrated. There was a news conference. He was just like, I'm telling everybody this audit is shit because the chain of custody is shit. I can't get in, whatever. So if you're waiting for some magical result or whatever, this ain't going to be it because I'm telling you as a person who's experienced and also a Republican, this is shit.
Yeah.
4 hours later, he's just like, well, we got to let them finish. We got to let them figure out what's going on. And I was just like, come on, man. The world can see that somebody made a phone call.
Oh, yeah.
He dialed it back. so fast. Like,
Well, I think at one point he quit, and then he was like, okay, I didn't quit. I'm gonna stay.
same day.
Same day.
He was like, I quit because I can't be the head of this shit that's going on.
Because he
That was
couldn't
like
control it.
That was like at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then by 3 p.m. he was just like, well, we gotta let them have a chance to finish the work that they're doing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is worse than like a soap opera.
I don't blame him because I wouldn't want my name associated with this either. It is a giant steaming pile of shit. Let me talk about what else is wrong with this. There's no dual control. There's one party funding this. Republican Party operatives, the people who are behind the Stop the Steal, like you said,
Michael Flynn and
all of them,
people, yeah.
and Mike Pillow, all of these people. We should do a whole episode on him. He's a fascinating train wreck. We have to do a whole episode on Mike Lindell. Anyways, so there is only one party funding this and one party who is looking for the conclusion or the evidence to lead to their own conclusion.
Yeah.
That's not dual control. There needs to be some balance of power in this to make it not be so suspicious and seem so shady. So that's the biggest problem that I have with this. The company leading this, Cyber Ninjas, they're not experienced. And so the Maricopa County Supervisor, Steve Gallardo, he's done many audits and elections before. He confirmed Cyber Ninjas has no documentation regarding their procedures, their safeguards, or how they're going to handle disputes in the process. And this was proven to be an issue on the first week because they weren't letting journalists in. They let one journalist in, but she couldn't have her cell phone. So she was going back to her little place on breaks or whatever and tweeting out.
Yeah.
And she said, it's in Arizona law that you're not allowed to use a blue or a black pen when you're auditing things because blue or black can be picked up by the scanners. So they could change somebody's vote. Cyber Ninjas that never occurred to them because apparently they didn't even read the Arizona election laws before they started this audit. I'm always going to use air quotes.
I don't understand the rampant incompetence.
It's not incompetence.
There are companies that are experienced in these types of things,
yes.
or government agencies even that are experienced that they could have, they chose some random idiot from Sarasota, Florida. Oh God, dude! Like every step of it, there's not one part of it where you could just be like, oh well, they got that right.
Mm-hmm.
No part of it.
I know there's absolutely nothing that we can point to say we have confidence that they're doing the right thing. They did not read the election laws before they started this audit. And so within the first week, this journalist was saying, excuse me, you're supposed to be using red pens. And they're like, what? We don't have to do that. Don't worry. We're not going to change any votes.
We're not teachers. We don't need red pens.
But she kind of got this back into the media. The media covered it, and that forced their hand to then a judge got involved, I believe, and said, y'all got to follow the election laws. You can't just be doing an audit and just willy-nilly do whatever the fuck you want. You have to actually follow election laws while you're doing an audit. A couple other people have spoken out. Paul Boyer, he's a Republican senator in Arizona. He said, this has been botched so many times along the way that it's irrecoverable. I remember reading that. And then, of course, the Arizona judge was like, show your work. It is state law. You can't just come to a conclusion because I think Cyber Ninjas is going to be forced to put out a statement within the next 2 weeks. They said it would take that long for them. But because the judge said you have to put out a statement with your findings and your paper trail.
You didn't show your work?
No, that's my word.
Okay, because I was thinking like, yo, he's treating them like second graders. Show your work.
I'm treating them like
you can't just carry the one and don't show.
It's just like math class when you can write the right answer down, but the teacher's like, who'd you copy from? Show your work to let me know that that you know what you're doing. You have to show your work. So no, those are my words.
Oh my God.
So yeah, lots of problems with this audit, and obviously the chain of custody was broken so many times. Did you know that there was a graduation ceremony that happened in the facilities right in the middle of this audit? Like, what the fuck? They had to move all the ballots out to a different facility.
I'm gonna put that news article like right here.
Yeah. Like, could you not have had the foresight I mean, it's like they didn't plan ahead. They were just like, let's do an audit today. And then they're like, oh shit.
Somebody already booked this
Somebody
venue.
booked it. Yeah. And they didn't plan ahead. This is really poor planning, poor execution.
Like, what kind of venue do you have what kind of venue do you have with election security that's shared with prom?
There ain't no security about this. Yeah. Did they actually find anything in the 2020 election? Any actual fraud that we can talk about or speak on?
There were 5 total cases of fraud in this entire general election.
So nationwide.
Nationwide. 2 were in Pennsylvania, 1 in Wisconsin. I can't remember where the other 2 were. And you can quote me on this. Usually I say don't quote me on this, but you can definitely quote me on this. All 5 of them were Republicans trying to like put in an extra vote for Trump.
Gee, you don't say.
I don't know. It's so weird to me. It's like projection. It goes back to what you were saying at the beginning of the episode. It's like when you're having like relationship mistrust or whatever. It's just like you're cheating on me. It's like, okay, well then I prove it. I can't. Why are you coming up with this? Oh, because you were doing it.
That wasn't true in my case, but
yeah,
it was the insecurity of the relationship, and you're gonna throw accusations with that insecurity.
Yeah, but it's very easy to throw the accusation that's currently on the forefront of your mind.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oh, there's voter fraud, and it's like, well, the 5 cases that the Department of Justice, and at the time, it was the Trump's Department of Justice, because remember the cabinets and all of those people didn't change over until after the inauguration.
Election, yeah.
They found these 5 back in like December.
Mm-hmm.
So this was Trump's DOJ that found the voter fraud. We are living in comic book times.
Really?
The Walking Dead. But, so besides the 5 that the DOJ established, there was nothing else established in terms of voter fraud. State-wise, from the federal level, from where like they literally the Trump DOJ came out and said this was the most secure election undocumented in the history of elections. That's it. There's nothing to dispute. Like, and if you look at it, we were talking about before, you had about 153 million voters, and you had 5 cases of voter fraud from one side.
The proven voter fraud.
Proven voter fraud. Like, mathematically, that number is negligible.
Statistically insignificant.
It's outside of the standard deviation. No one gives a fuck about that. It's like, I remember my chemistry teacher asked me one time, because we were dealing with what was negligible.
Yeah.
And I think he asked, how many people can fit inside the shoe? You and your 5 friends. So you go to the football game, and they announce, we got a packed stadium today, 128,000 people. And they're like, yeah, we're about to kick off. And then you and your 5 friends get up and leave. How many people are in the stadium? 128,000. Don't nobody give a fuck about you and your 5 friends.
True.
Like,
it's a really good example.
Yes. I remember he's like, and that's what you use for negligible.
Yes. Now they're going to harp on these 5 cases. Now they probably don't want to
because
they're Republican. But I have to say, just in general, even though that is a valid point, when you're talking about the specifics of was there voter fraud, that equals no.
Yeah.
Even though there's 5 cases, that equals no. I do want to be realistic about this. It's just speaking on the probability of there being 0 voter fraud. No, that's not likely. Of there being 100% voter fraud. No, that's not likely either. It's going to be somewhere in between. So we can't. I do disagree with the media saying that there's no voter fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically speaking, that is an accurate statement, but we should be realistic about this, that 0% voter fraud is not likely.
And it's usually, well, here's the thing, usually in like a smooth run election like this one, what the DOJ says, a lot of times the voter fraud is not like purposely premeditated and malicious.
Right.
It's some accidental shit. Somebody grabbed the wrong mail-in ballot, and they wrote on their wife's instead of theirs, and they got it mixed up, or it wasn't like the 3 votes from this household is going to stem the tide of the election.
No, and also I do find it very disturbing that people are going to say this nationwide election, was stolen, when they're failing to recognize, and we've said this in a prior podcast episode.
Yeah.
every state runs their own election laws.
Yeah.
So you'd have to find a way to coordinate fraud in 50 states.
Alaska and Hawaii.
Yes. And any territories that might be open for local elections. But
Jesus.
I mean, this takes a lot to say that it was stolen.
Yeah, and the word they keep using is widespread.
Yeah, and there's no proof of widespread.
Okay.
They're only judging that based on starting with the outcome of they wanted Trump to win.
Yeah.
And anything that they can find to make that not true, they're going to say is fraud. But no, the fraud is a very specific definition. You violated the exact law in that state for that specific election.
And each state is different. Like for example, I think Maine has full on voting by mail. You can register these things. You can show up and register. They have drop boxes like on every fucking corner.
Yes.
Like there's nothing that you can. And in their state, they had zero voter fraud.
Right. So they may that could be statistically speaking zero voter fraud.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got one case, but it's not enough to change the election. So again, 0% voter fraud is not likely. But 100% voter fraud is also not likely.
There's a huge difference between the fraud that they said that they were trying to prove.
Yeah.
For example, like, dead people voting. That was like the big talk at the end. There's so many dead people and blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, dead people's social security numbers are tied to their fucking death certificates. Like that's an easy search and find and fix.
Yeah.
But what they were actually looking for in terms of fraud is way more sinister.
Well, tell me.
And so much more hilarious.
What's the goal?
That you would have to have the most amazing imagination to come up with this. And I'm so curious about who came up with it and where and when it started.
Okay.
The GOP in Arizona decided that 40,000 ballots, 40, 3 zeros, 40,000 ballots. Now, you might find it coincidental that that's probably close to the number that Trump would need to defeat Biden in the Arizona election. Actually,
it's just a coincidence.
It was 51,900 and something votes that he lost by, which is a lot of votes.
Yeah.
But according to the GOP in Arizona, 40,000 of the ballots were flown in from China and various parts of Asia. And they know that they can find the difference between the real ballots and these fake Asian/Chinese ballots because the Asian and the Chinese ballots contain bamboo. I deserve a medal for saying that with a straight face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Let me get this straight. Okay, so if they're accusing people, whoever, of flying these ballots to China.
From China to Arizona.
From China to Arizona.
Yeah.
What's in it for China? I mean, they're not just going to get involved in our elections without a little bit of a trade-off.
Apparently, the GOP talking point was that, like, China and Biden are, like, lovers.
But Trump did a trade deal with China and gave them a whole bunch of our
meat and soy. You can't make it make sense.
I can't make it make sense because I'm sorry. China just did a trade deal and they got a whole bunch of our meat and corn and soy while our people were starving. Yeah. China was getting our stuff and our PPE before we did our own response to coronavirus. So I'm sorry. I think that China has a better relationship with Trump than they do with Biden. This doesn't make sense.
So I'll read it to you straight from The Guardian. It says, there's accusation that 40,000 ballots were flown into Arizona and it was stuffed into the box. And it came from the southeast part of the world, Asia. And what they're doing is to find out whether there's bamboo in the paper. John Brakey, a longtime election audit advocate, told reporters. He then continues, I do think it is somewhat a waste of time, but it will help unhinge people, Brakey said on record. They're not going to find bamboo. If they do, I think we need to know, don't you? how much PCP are people on in Arizona? He's the one that's saying there's bamboo, but we're not going to find it. What if we find it? People need to know. That sounds so crazy to me. Like, I don't understand how he doesn't hear the words coming out of his mouth into his ears. Like, I'm a fucking dumbass. I should be quiet.
I don't think we should be giving energy, life, and breath to stupid conspiracy theories.
Oh my God.
I mean, I can understand that there are some conspiracy theories worth listening to. The Kennedy assassination. And we might have to bleep that word out so that we're not flagged. But the Kennedy incident, I think it's interesting, a lot of the theories that float around about that. But if I hear somebody saying that D.B. Cooper, his face is on the computer, D.B. Cooper jumped out of the airplane and landed on top of Kennedy, and that was what killed him, I don't think we need to give life to that.
We wouldn't investigate. I don't know why we're doing this.
Obviously absurd. I feel the same way about the bamboo.
Oh my
There's
God.
no need to investigate it because I really think that it's a waste of
So
time.
you remember the name that you mentioned earlier, Ken Bennett, which was like the top guy in the state. After he was frustrated, and then he fucking flip-flopped, and then he came back on board or whatever. So they interviewed him about this bamboo situation that they're looking into. And Ken Bennett, the liaison between the auditors and the Arizona state, the auditors here, they're calling auditors, they're cyber ninjas. So Ken Bennett, the liaison between cyber ninjas and the Arizona Senate, said in an interview he wasn't sure if the auditors were looking for bamboo fibers specifically. Here's the quote from him. I think that's more of a euphemism for saying we're looking for everything related to paper so that we can verify that the ballots are authentic. They're looking for folds in the paper. They're looking for where their ovals are marked. Is there a little bit of an indentation, or was the mark made by a Xerox machine? Question mark. Who knows? It's just kind of a general expression for we're checking the paper and the folds and everything to make sure that these are authentic ballots. Now, I'm telling you, some Chinese official made some calls and was just like, watch your fucking mouth. You know our work. And so he had to fucking back, or he was just like, okay, we didn't mean bamboo. That's a little bit racist.
It is.
It's racist as fuck. It's such a dog whistle. They might have well said there were panda prints on the fucking ballots. Fucking hell. Why not? I don't know. So he was just like, yeah, I don't think we mean bamboo, specifically bamboo, because obviously you can't use bamboo to make paper. It's papyrus. But we're just saying if these ballots exist. So there was video, I don't remember if you saw this, of them like holding up the paper to the fucking light. Like, you know, like it was like a fake $100 bill.
Like the hanging chads in 2000 where they were like, oh.
So they were doing all of that, right? Now, so that's the fraud that they were actually looking for. When it got to the point where they were just like, shit, we can't find anything. I know, let's blame China. And let's blame bamboo and let's blame whatever. So that wasn't the weirdest part too. This is what that same Ken Bennett, what got him the most frustrated a second time was that they had taken a number of ballots from Maricopa County. I can't remember the number specific, but cyber ninjas took these boxes of ballots, put them in the like semis, like big trucks, and drove them to Montana to a secret location.
Why?
I'm glad you asked. They sent them to the CEO of another company that was paying the money for the audit to say, hey, hold on to these and look into them, because his whole thing from the get-go is, I know exactly how the election was stolen. And it was stolen through inconsistencies with the servers. And this was a guy who was, along with the Doug guy from Florida, who was blaming Hugo Chavez from Venezuela. By the way, Hugo Chavez has been dead years now. And remember, one of these companies is filing a lawsuit.
Dominion.
Because they were saying that Hugo Chavez tampered with the Dominion voting systems and changed the servers and changed ballots from Trump to Biden, and that's how it was stolen. So what they did was they gathered a number of these ballots from Arizona, drove them to Montana, and literally handed them to this guy. When Ken Bennett found that out, he was just like, "What the fuck are you doing? That's not fucking chain of custody. Who's this guy?
Yeah.
What are you doing?" And they were just like, and he was telling him, he's like, "Get them back, bring them back down
It's
here. What
already
the fuck?
breached.
It's fucked.
It's already breached.
It's fucked.
The moment it leaves the facility, you're done.
It's over.
You're done. And this is how, if people want to understand in our justice system,
Yeah.
how murderers go free, it's this kind of shit. Because some stupid person makes a bad decision, breaks the chain of custody, and the evidence that actually proves the murder and who did it, this is how it happens, that a murderer walks
He
away.
was so pissed. I'm gonna read it here. One of the aides from his office says something new comes up every single day. Now I remind you, people, these are Republicans that are having a problem with what they ordered.
Right.
So it's like, this is one more thing. The data, according to Ken Bennett, a copy of the data created by Dominion Voting Systems from hard drives and servers that were only in Maricopa County were delivered to the state Senate in a response to the subpoena. There was a subpoena for the data. The data was then handed over to Cyber Ninjas for auditing and election records. The original evidence was left completely intact, he says. A copy was taken to do whatever evaluation they were doing for Cyber Ninjas, and it was shipped to a company called Cyber Technology Services. The CEO of that company, Ben Cotton, was the person who received it.
Okay.
And he's just like, "I know what to do with these. I'm going to get to the bottom of this Dominion Hugo Chavez, server issue."
Okay.
So it got to the point where Ken Bennett was just like, "All right, listen, whatever ballots that you gave him to figure out, we are just going to have to count those out. We can't use those as a part of any investigation or anything right now because
this is like,
it's over."
This is like Keystone Cops. Keystone Cops auditing. This is insane to me. And I hope that doesn't sound ridiculous. If you're not familiar with Keystone Cops, silent film era, go look it up.
My God, it's slapstick.
It's slapstick, yeah. Go look it up.
You know what? They should do like a fucking time lapse with the Benny Hinn music.
This is insane to me that we're even giving this breath.
Oh!
But people need to know how ridiculous this is, because this is our election integrity on the line here. So the fact that they're trying to investigate in this manner is on its face absolutely absurd. The fact that they're like, we know something's wrong. We're just going to look. This is an audit. An audit has specific things that you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's a list of key points to look for. And those key points are based on election laws. So things like you can't use a blue or black pen when you're reviewing ballots because that can be picked up by scanners. Things like that. There should be a list, a specified list of look at these key points, these and nothing else. So really what they're doing is they're looking at this list and saying, well, we can't find anything in this list that's wrong. So we're just going to look. We're going to find something. We don't know what we're looking for.
I don't know how they got
We're going to find something.
how they got the bamboo, man.
Yeah.
That's so wild. I don't
know either. So I want to talk about the very blatant fact here that these ballots in Arizona are not just presidential ballots.
They're not.
There's an entire list of elections and propositions that were on that same ballot. So I want to talk about the media has covered just the very high level point that if the presidential election was fraudulent, then everything on that ballot is fraudulent. I want to name names. I want to be specific. So if Republicans claim that Biden's win was not valid, then we need to know who else is not valid. If Biden didn't win, then Mark Kelly didn't win. Proposition 207, legalizing marijuana, that did not pass. So I want to know,
Arizona gonna be pissed.
Are all those people smoking weed? Are they violating the law right now because Prop 207 didn't pass? Proposition 208, giving pay raises to teachers. Take that money back, guys.
Sorry.
Yep. So Tom O'Halloran didn't win. Ann Kirkpatrick did not win. Raul Grijalva did not win. Paul Gosar didn't win. I'm going to come back to him in a second. Andy Biggs didn't win. David Schweikert didn't win. Ruben Gallego didn't win. Debbie Lesko didn't win. Greg Stanton didn't win.
Doesn't make any sense.
So I will note, Ali Alexander is the guy who organized the January 6th protests. He said he actually named Paul Gosar, who was up for re-election in 2020, as a person who helped him organize January 6th. The event to overturn his own election.
That would result in him losing.
Yes.
Moron.
If the 2020 election was fraudulent, then he's overturning his own election. Listen to how fucking ridiculous that sounds. He also he opposed the Electoral College results on January 6th in the House of Representatives. He only opposed one result.
What?
On a ballot of 13 results. So 12 are good, one's bad. How does that work?
The one he didn't like.
The one he didn't like is fraud. Everything else on the ballot is cool. So I just want you guys to know this. It's utter bullshit. And that's the only proof that you need. If he won his election and Biden lost, somebody's lying. And it ain't Biden. Because Biden doesn't plan the Arizona elections, okay? Just
oh my God.
stating the obvious.
The best thing to cap this off with is, let's say is some, like I said before, parallel universe that this makes sense. And all right, let's flip it. And Trump won Arizona. He still loses the election.
Yes, he still loses the election.
Because he doesn't have Georgia or Pennsylvania or Nevada.
He doesn't have any of the states. And he's not challenging the states where he won either. So
And the voter fraud is only in states where he lost. Like this is playground shit. This is like the teacher would come out to recess and be like, "What's happening here?" Oh no. Everybody get inside.
like we're done here.
We're done with this.
Yeah. So I think that summarizes it pretty well.
All right.
Yeah.
Let these people know how they can reach us.
All right. Well, you can reach us on Twitch at Mixed Politics. You can also find us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram at mixed.politics, Twitter, mixedpolitics1, or you can send us an email at mixedpoliticspod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And be sure to subscribe to our audio podcast and give us a rating wherever you listen.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Click the little bell if you're on YouTube so you can be alerted when we post new videos and stuff.
All the things.
All right.
Do all the things. Show us the love.
We're on patreon.com/mixedpolitics where you can get merch. You can get studio time with us. You can get your questions asked and answered on our podcast. You can come sit here and, I don't know, maybe in the middle, maybe at the end over there, maybe bartend.
That actually is an excellent idea.
We might need a bartender. I know, right? You can get us drunk.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So, but go to patreon.com/mixedpolitics if you want to get bonus footage, if you want to get early access. We try to get these out for you on Tuesday, but for Patreon members, they come out on Monday night more often than not. So, but we appreciate, we give back, and we kick back, and it's a fun time. You get to be a part of this. So, but thanks for sticking it out for us and with us. 17 episodes.
All right. Let's go on to 18.
18.
To our analysts, pundits, and experts.
Yeah.
Cheers.
And to all a good night. Except people in Arizona, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Maricopa County.
Maricopa County. Yes.
What a shit show.
I know. Man. But I hope we laid out the case for everybody that is